Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. Last night I was able to check out WWE Rivalries. I believe this was the fourth or fifth episode. This was them talking all about the rivalry between Roddy Piper and Hulk Hogan. One of the rivalries that really put WWF on the map. Without Piper versus Hogan, there would be no the MTV exposure, which led to WrestleMania. And then WrestleMania wouldn't have been able to grow to the point of where it is today, where it's going to be held in Santa Clara, California for WrestleMania 31 with probably 70,000 fans cheering there in the San Francisco 49ers Stadium, people coming from around the world and stuffing that place full of easily the most biggest wrestling fans in the entire world. When this story first started getting laid out, they sort of laid the groundwork of basically Vince McMahon taking his territory over for his dad, and then basically instead of running it as a Northeastern territory, starting to spread throughout the whole United States by buying up time slots on local television stations to air his channel, and as well as then also getting on the USA Network once the cable really got off the ground. Roddy Piper was a well-known wrestler. He became a really big star wrestling down in Los Angeles in their territory, and basically he was looked at as a guy to come in and maybe help out the WWF. This was during the mid-70s. Vince's dad had brought Piper in, and he was going to have his big Madison Square Garden debut, coming out, delivering a promo, but was basically calling everybody out, playing his bagpipes a little bit. But once he had gotten there, basically Piper had sort of learned that it was tough to hang with the guys in the WWF. They were sort of like the top dogs of the wrestling world, and they were all sort of protecting their spot. Classy Freddie Blassie, a guy that a lot of people know because he was sort of always looked at as one of those classic wrestlers from that era. He came in and he gave that awesome speech to Team WWF before the big match where they had the match against the Invasion, the WCW and ECW guys, basically saying that if they lost the match, basically all of their lineage to the past would be forgotten, and they had to go out and win one for him. But Freddie Blassie took Piper's bagpipes and stuffed them full of toilet paper, so when Piper went out there to play the bagpipes, basically no noise would come out of him. Every once in a while a piece of toilet paper would shoot out, and even though he was ribbed, and even though it was the boys who sort of held him down, the way he puts it is, I showed up in a limousine, and when I left they stuck me in a cab and said, don't worry, we'll call you, don't call us. And he went out and he had to go back out onto the circuit and basically build his star up to the point where finally Vince McMahon saw something in him, and Vince McMahon called and brought him back. And when Piper came back to the WWF at that time, basically he looked at Hulk Hogan, who was a guy who was basically getting everything handed to him on a silver platter. He didn't really have to go out there and work like everybody else did. He was the guy that got lucky and got a movie with Rocky 3, of course, with Sylvester Stallone, and that really built up his it built up his, I guess you can say, his mystique of being bigger and better than everybody else. So when Piper came in, basically he said to himself that he wasn't going to be laying down for anybody. And through the whole deal with Cyndi Lauper and basically Piper being able to expose like how great he is on the microphone, he created Piper's Pit. He was supposed to build wrestling up to where it was just this huge controversial topic of basically, Piper versus Hogan, which led down to the first MTV special, which was the war. No, damn, not the war to end it all. The war to settle the score. That was going to be held on MTV, where basically it was Hogan versus Piper, and everybody thought you were going to be able to see a clean finish and see what was going down. Surprisingly, for a lot of people that were out there, basically this was basically a way to get mainstream appeal to watch wrestling, to set up for the first big show for WWF, which was WrestleMania. During this match, which wasn't even really a match, it was more of an all-out brawl with Hogan and Piper just punching each other and rolling around on the floor. Basically, there's a spot where the referee takes a bump, and then from there, Mr. Wonderful comes out, and he jumps into the ring, and he starts beating on Hogan, and then Mr. T, who had walked Hulk Hogan out to the ring that night, basically he took off his workout jacket, and then he got into the ring, and basically the heels were scared off. Nobody wanted to be beat up by Mr. T, the big mystique he had coming in off the A-Team, which then led, of course, to the WrestleMania tag team match, which was going to be Mr. Wonderful and Roddy Piper going up against Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. A lot of people saw this as a big, huge dream match. Mr. Wonderful had a big, huge body. A lot of people said that if it wasn't for Hogan, Paul Wonderful probably would have been one of the main stars of the WWF at that time. And they came down. They had a big match. It revolved a lot around celebrities and a whole lot of things that are out there on the outside. It sort of turned into a little bit of Hogan talking about the feud between Mr. T and Roddy Piper, basically saying that Piper didn't understand the fact that, you know, Vince bringing in these outside actors and things like that was going to be better for the business to get more eyes on him. If you think about all of the celebrities that were at WrestleMania 1 was Mr. T, Liberace, the Rockettes, I think Billy Martin was there, Muhammad Ali as the outside referee. Just anything that would bring anybody's eyes to it. Basically saying that I haven't seen this guy in a while, or he was one of my favorites. I really thought they were going to go into talking about WrestleMania 2, where basically, you know, it was Piper versus Mr. T in a boxing match. They didn't talk about that at all. They sort of just talked about how Piper didn't really, he didn't want to give anything up. You know, he was that one guy that never gave a win to Hulk Hogan, but besides for like the other guy losing in a tag match or maybe a disqualification or a count out or something like that. Then you flash forward all the way to WCW, basically, and you have Bischoff talking about bringing in Hulk Hogan to sort of change the dynamic of WCW. Everybody always looked at it as sort of that slow-speaking Southern sort of territory, and they needed something to make it look like it was a big deal. Of course, bringing in Hulk Hogan at that time was really, really big. They ran with the outsiders, bringing in Hogan, turning him into Hollywood Hogan with the NWO, and they just ran through everybody that was on the roster. They beat down Sting, Lex Luger, Macho Man, any of the big stars that were involved in WCW. They just let them just fall. And then finally, you know, it was at Halloween Havoc after, I can't remember who Hogan beat in that match. I want to say it was the Macho Man, but I'm not 100% sure. But as Hogan was celebrating inside of the ring, basically Roddy Piper came out of the back to the bagpipes, came down into the ring and cut a promo on Hogan, basically saying that he was now in WCW because he had seen what Hogan was doing down there. And Piper was the one guy that Hogan's never been able to beat, and he just didn't want everybody, you know, running everybody over. No, because it was at Super Brawl. Super Brawl was their first match, then that led to Starrcade. Shit, what was their biggest show down there? It was called Starrcade. That was it. Okay. Basically, this is one of the things that really started to get a lot of people to sort of, you know, question what was going on in WCW down there. They built up this big match from Halloween Havoc all the way into Super Brawl. Basically, it was Piper versus Hogan. And it was supposed to be, you know, the big grudge match. And once they get all the way down to it, Piper beats Hogan in the middle of the ring with a sleeper hold. It's not the normal deal where the ref, you know, puts the arms up 3 times. Just Hogan passes out from the sleeper hold. And Piper celebrates all around the ring. The belt's never used in any of this whole deal. He shows up on Nitro expecting to be named the new WCW champion. And basically, Bischoff just comes out there with all of his rules, basically saying that there was no pinfall, there was no submission, it just was a ref stoppage. You know, in WCW, they don't change hands on there. They ended up putting it up to another match where they were going to go at it one more time. This time's going to be for the match at Starrcade, and this time, basically the match is going to be, you know, for the championship and all of that. This match comes down to it. Piper and Hogan have a decent match. Piper looks like they have the advantage. At this one point, Macho Man comes down, puts the brass knuckles on Hogan's hands. Hogan throws a miraculous lucky punch, knocks out Piper. Piper lays down on the ring, 1, 2, 3, and Hogan gets the win. It just, I don't know, they built it up like it was going to be something that was a big deal. Piper ended up wrestling for WCW for a matter of years, but this was the main reason that he was brought in, to sort of be the NWO stopper, and he wasn't the guy who was able to do it. You can remember him having some good matches with Bret Hart and Ric Flair down there. A lot of times Piper was just sort of the guy that was off to the side, that would have a match just to sort of use his name value, and that was about it. Then it came down to them talking about, which I really didn't even see coming. I was really surprised. They talked more about WrestleMania 19 than they talked more about their feud after. But basically, Piper came back to WWE in 2002. And at WrestleMania 19 in Seattle, they had a match, which was going to be Vince McMahon versus Hulk Hogan. And this is supposed to be a big grudge match about who created who. Was it, basically Vince McMahon that created Hulkamania, or was it Hulkamania that created the WWF and really got them to the point where they're at today? And Hogan and Vince went out there and they beat the shit out of each other for a good matter of time before both guys were laid down on the mat. And basically Piper walked through the crowd and he jumped the rail and got into the ring. This was something that nobody really saw coming. When I met Piper last year at WrestleFest, this was the one thing that I talked about because I never heard him ever reveal this story of anything. And I remember at this point, following wrestling and following the dirt sheets and things like that. And Piper doing a run-in at WrestleMania would have been big news. And I didn't hear it anywhere. It was one of those times when you were really surprised watching something, not knowing who was the mysterious man that just jumped into the ring, and the the huge response that Piper got when he ripped off that trench coat and showed off who he was and sort of did his little dance around in the ring. And then he picked up the lead pipe and he had to decide on who he was going to hit. Basically, Piper just talked about, he told Vince that he would do it. And he told him that if anybody finds out about it, I'm not doing it. He basically told Vince to keep his mouth shut, make sure nobody knows about it. This is either going to be a surprise or it's not going to be a surprise. Piper jumps into the ring. He grabs the lead pipe. He takes all the time in the world to decide, is he going to hit Vince or is he going to hit Hogan? He finally goes over and he hits Hogan and lays him out and they get out of the ring. I'm pretty sure that Vince loses that match to Hogan, but I haven't seen it in a while and I can't really remember, honestly. From there, they went on to doing the thing where Roddy Piper teamed up with Sean O'Hare and he took on Hogan as Captain America. They didn't talk anything about that. That was probably smart on their part because that's a feud that I think some people might remember, but it's a feud that a lot of people don't want to remember. They capped it off basically by talking about Hogan and Piper going into the Hall of Fame in 2005 at WrestleMania 21. It was a special night for them both to go in. Honestly, it would have been a great night to be a part of WrestleMania. With it being located in Los Angeles in 2005, easily this was something that I could have done. It was one of those WrestleMania trips that just never really happened because I didn't really know how to plan a vacation or plan a trip. I've talked in my videos before about really wanting to go to WrestleMania 17, really wanting to go to WrestleMania 19, really wanting to go to WrestleMania 21. All of these that never really panned out before making my first trip in WrestleMania 26 when I basically just couldn't turn it down because they called me and said, "You won tickets, can you be here on Sunday?" And I didn't have time to overthink it. But at that point, I had planned a few family vacations and things like that, so I knew how to get it done. And of course, from then on, it turned into a obsession with WrestleMania 26, 27, 28, 30, and now 31. But this was a great show. Hopefully you guys will go check this out. I sat through it. It was a lot better than the Monday Night War that I fell asleep about building an army, which seemed more like it was a rerun of other episodes and you're just slam-packed together, mainly just to talk about the gang wars that happened with the Hart Foundation, DX, Nation of Domination, teams like that, sort of going at it, sort of pairing off what WCW was doing with the NWO. So, thank you for sitting through this one, guys. And WWE Rivalries is one of the shows that when I do reviews on them, gets the least amount of reviews. Gets the least amount of views. But honestly, I think it's one of the best shows they have going on the WWE Network, and you guys should check it out. Peace.